All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are cracking open one of the most mind-bending, reality-breaking secrets of existence. I mean, think about it for a second. Are you just a random copy-paste collection of biological traits? Or is there some hidden, almost magical ingredient that makes you absolutely, unmistakably unique? Well, we are diving into a controversy so incredibly profound that it sparked a literal philosophical war back in the 14th century. So buckle up, because we're getting right into the ultimate medieval smackdown over the very fabric of reality.
To really get why this matters, let's just drop right into the void. Seriously, I want you to imagine a completely empty, terrifyingly blank universe. Out there in this void, there is absolutely nothing except two perfectly identical iron spheres. This is actually a famous modern thought experiment from the philosopher Max Black, and honestly, it is basically guaranteed to break your brain. If you're standing in the void with these two spheres, how exactly do you tell them apart?
Because when you really think about the sheer impossibility of the situation, it's staggering. Both spheres are made of chemically pure iron. They are exactly 1 mile in diameter, they have the exact same temperature, the exact same color, and the exact same surroundings, which is just absolute nothingness. Every single quality of the one is a perfect property of the other. So if they are identical in literally every way, why are there two spheres instead of just one? What invisible force is stopping them from just melting together into the exact same object?
What we have right here is a genuine reality-breaking paradox. It completely shatters this legendary rule in philosophy known as Leibniz's principle of the identity of indiscernibles. That rule basically says that two individuals absolutely must differ in some way, but our iron spheres don't. So to solve this without reality literally collapsing in on itself, we need a shocking, non-qualitative, almost magical solution.
Section 1. Enter the Thisness.
Say hello to the concept of Haecceity. This was dreamed up by the brilliant 13th century philosopher John Duns Scotus, and the term actually comes from the Latin word haec, which simply means this. Haecceity is a non-qualitative property that is solely responsible for an object's individual identity. It is, quite literally, a thing's totally unrepeatable thisness. Think of it as the ultimate, unexplainable secret ingredient of existence that actually has absolutely zero to do with physical traits.
You see, medieval philosophers divided reality into two totally distinct camps. On one side, you have quidditas, or whatness. These are the boring copy-paste traits that we all share, right? Like being human or being made of iron. But on the other side, we have haecceity, the thisness. And thisness is irreducibly particular. It's essentially this hidden metaphysical barcode that makes a thing exactly itself, completely immune to being duplicated.
So you might be wondering, why did medieval monks care so much about this? Well, in 1277, the Bishop of Paris basically issued a massive terms of service update for reality. See, philosophers used to say that physical matter is what tells things apart. But the bishop asked, what about immaterial angels? If you have two completely identical invisible angels, how are they two distinct beings? He demanded an answer. So by the early 1300s, Duns Scotus invents Haecceity to solve it. But then fast forward to the 1320s, and a rogue philosopher named William of Ockham shows up, ready to burn the whole concept to the ground.
Section 2. Duns Scotus, the architect.
Okay, so Scotus drops this absolute bombshell on the medieval world. He says the nature existing in this stone is not of itself one by numerical unity. Now, what does that actually mean for us? He's basically saying that the stoneness of a stone, its common nature, isn't just a single isolated thing. It's kind of like the text of a blockbuster novel. The exact same story exists in millions of printed copies, right? In Scotus's view, universal essence is somehow divided up into all its physical parts out in the real world.
And this beautifully sets up Scotus's master recipe for reality. How do we actually get distinct individuals? Well, step 1. You start with that shared, copy-paste common nature. Step 2, you inject an indivisible Haecceity, just a pure magical pulse of thisness. And step 3, boom, you get a perfectly distinct concrete individual. He literally fused universal essence with raw numerical distance to explain how something like you can exist.
But wait, how do these two completely different things actually stick together? To explain this, Scotus invented a totally mind-bending concept called the formal distinction. He argued that the shared nature and the unique Haecceity are formally distinct realities happening within the exact same thing, but they are absolutely inseparable. You can't just slice a rock in half and separate its stoneness from its thisness. They are constantly existing together in this hyper-complex harmony just to prevent reality from falling apart.
Section 3. The ultimate medieval smackdown.
And because we're talking about philosophy, not everyone was happy with this incredibly bloated, complicated universe. It's time for the tale of the tape in this legendary heavyweight clash. In the blue corner, we have Duns Scotus, fiercely defending a hyper-complex reality built on these magical Haecceity. And in the red corner, William of Ockham, the absolute champion of ruthless minimalism. Ockham looks at Scotus's thisness and just calls it out as complete metaphysical bloatware. He argues that substances are singular, se ipso, which just means simply through themselves.
Section 4. Ockham strikes back.
Get a load of this quote. Every universal would be a pure figment of the intellect. Now, here is the absolutely crazy part about this. Duns Scotus originally wrote this line as a terrifying warning of what would happen if his complex theory failed. But William of Ockham reads that exact warning and just says, yep, exactly. Ockham ruthlessly embraces this as the absolute truth. To him, universals don't exist out there in reality at all. They are literally just imaginary concepts in our minds. Ockham just comes in swinging with a brutal takedown of the whole system. First off, universals are strictly mental, end of story. Second, objects are singular by themselves. You don't need some complex magical recipe to make them unique. Third, absolutely no extra thisness is needed to explain why a thing is distinct. It just is. And finally, he takes a giant axe to Scotus's fuzzy, formal distinction. To Ockham, there's no gray area. If two things are identical, they're identical. If they are distinct, they are distinct.
And that brings us to the concept of primitive identity. Ockham uses this to completely obliterate the paradox of our two identical iron spheres in the void. He just says, look, two things can be precisely similar to each other in every single qualitative way you can measure, yet they remain perfectly distinct simply because of their own self-identity. There is absolutely no magical thisness required. They are distinct by the raw, undeniable, primitive fact of just being themselves.
Section 5. What makes you, you?
So we've explored Scotus's hyper-complex metaphysical architecture and Ockham's stripped-down, bare-knuckled logic, but I really want to leave you with this thought today. When you strip away your height, your hair color, your memories, and your shared humanity, is there actually anything left? Are you just beautifully, simply yourself, exactly like Ockham claimed? Or, buried deep inside you, is there a secret, totally unrepeatable Haecceity, a pure spark of thisness that the universe can never, ever duplicate? So what do you think? Are you just a bundle of traits, or are you magic? Let that sink in. Thanks for diving into this explainer with me, and I'll catch you in the next one.